rage, stay in your lane, turn the page, but something woke up deep inside, a stronger voice, a wilder ride. I've paid my dues, I know my worth, I've fallen down, I've had rebirth. Now I'm standing in my truth, not chasing time, I'm choosing me. I've got wisdom in my bones, fire in my soul. This isn't the ending, this is the moment I take control. Life gets better after 40, clearer vision, brighter glow. I'm not fading, I'm ascending. This is the best I've ever known. Stronger, bolder, unapologetic. I'm just getting started, don't you see? 40's forward, this is my time. The future's finally looking like me.
All right, everybody, we're back with another episode of 40s Forward. And with me today, I have Andrea Trank. Now, this is going to be a super fun episode. So Andrea is a somatic yoga instructor. She's also a certified integrative medicine coach. You also have HeartMath certification, which I have to say, I actually have the HeartMath machines here and I never actually use them. I've had them for years. I've wanted to learn it.
I'll teach you.
And you are the owner of Heavenlane Healing and Creative Arts. And this is going to be fun. It's going to be spicy. We have a great episode planned ahead. So thank you so much, Andrea, for being with us today.
Well, I'm so happy to be with you, Dr. Betsy. You've been an inspiration to me a lot.
I'm going to just go back because I can't wait to hear about how I've been an inspiration. But before we get that, how did you get into the integrative medicine aspect and the yoga?
Well, my journey of, like many other who enter this field, it's based on my own health issues. So I was a school teacher. I had 3 children. I was running my life, and I just was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I was a pretty healthy person in my view. I ate relatively healthy. I worked out. I played tennis. I had a good life. I had good genetics. And I was like, what the heck is going on with me? And in the end, it's not the end. But what I found out was it was a series of, it was gut issues, which I had my whole life, that I never thought much about it. But as I went through my hormonal changes, other issues started coming up. Things like thyroid issues and cold hands and chronic pain and, excuse me, not being able to get enough rest. Brain fog. Let's see, everything you described. And of course, I'm older. So of course, everyone's saying, oh, you're depressed. You're anxious. Go on an antidepressant, go on an anti-anxiety medicine. This will solve everything. And I tried one of those medicines, I think one time, and the side effects were so awful that I said, I'm never doing this again. And because of that, I said, well, what can I do? I've got to empower my own self. So I left the field of school teaching and first became a yoga teacher. I thought, I'm a teacher. I can teach anything. And I trained as a yoga teacher, and that was helping a lot. But as the symptoms got worse, I thought, it's not enough. So then I started looking into nutrition and supplements and my lifestyle and what was I doing that was not contributing to me staying healthy as I was aging? And I went back and I got another series of certifications and classes and started adding that to my life. So all these things, I wasn't really teaching them initially. I was doing them for myself. But eventually people started asking me, and before I knew it, I said, well, maybe I ought to do this more officially. So I moved my way into that. And then the HeartMath, which is really interesting, was sort of my final series of training because everything I was doing was helping. But I realized the thing that I was missing was understanding my nervous system's involvement in all of this. And HeartMath is a wonderful tool for regulating your nervous system. And if you have a dysregulated nervous system, you can change every supplement, you can change your diet, you can get rid of all the toxic chemicals, you can do the right kind of exercise, and you're still not going to be feeling good because your nervous system's out of whack. So that's when I added all the HeartMath things in, again, for myself. And then before I knew it, I was helping student teachers, I was helping other women that were struggling. And my career has always followed my own journey.
I love that. And I agree with you. That's how a lot of us have ended up with our passions in life, is that something's happened to us and then we've looked into it and have healed that. And then next you know, so I find that as a theme. And I also love that you touched upon the things that are driving me crazy right now is I'm seeing so many women are getting like thrown hormones as like the answer, but they're not addressing the nervous system and the gut. And so if we don't address those hormones aren't going to fix anything. It's everything together. These are all tools. So I love the fact that you are like touched on those things too.
Yes,
So,
it's, that integrative approach is so important. And back to why you inspire me, you talk about that a lot. And it's hard to find practitioners out there who really understand the whole picture. A lot of them, and really, besides, listening to you, if you were my neighbor, I'd be coming to you. But I've had to have like a team of people. I have a gut health specialist who at least I know will work with me and treat me like I understand what's going on. And then I have a gynecologist who finally gets it. And then I had to find a regular internal medicine person who would prescribe my LDN, my low-dose naltrexone, because I can't prescribe that for myself, but it's really helpful for people like me who have Hashimoto's. And I'm having to educate so many of these practitioners about things, Oh, and the cool thing is Centera Health Insurance, which I have a health insurance plan, has started something called Well Theory. And Well Theory is working with people who are autoimmune disease sufferers. And they're the group that ordered my oat test for me. And that's how I discovered that I have fungus in me, not regular bacteria overgrowth. And so it is good to see a large organization finally moving in that direction. Now, I have to pay for those tests. It's still not that good that they're going to cover those tests. But the fact is I get to work with a nutritionist from Centera Well Theory. And so that, to me, we're moving in the right direction, Dr.
yeah, unfortunately, I will say the medical community traditionally lags about 10 to 15 years behind. But even when it comes to this holistic stuff, I mean, they're already probably like 20 plus years behind. Yeah, I think we are moving in the right direction. Eventually they'll get there, because it drives me crazy when I'm like, you know what, if they just spent the money and allowed people to do preventative things instead of disease care, they could be saving not only the individuals, but as an organization, they could be saving millions of dollars in disease care. If we just focus on like root cause and like what's going on and how do we fix the underlying stressors and inflammation, it would make a giant difference.
It would.
So
The somatic yoga, the HeartMath, all these things belong in our healthcare industry. We should not be separate. We should be incorporated in, because all these things are so important. Like, I have to do it all, Dr. Betsy, to feel well. And I'm 67 now, and I feel better now, but I do it all. Like, you can't just go on a pill. And that's what a lot of the people my age are doing. And that's actually become one of my latest efforts, is to say, you can be vibrant. You can have an active sexual life. You can live. You don't have to just go on a bunch of medicines and sit there and think your life is behind you. So
Yeah, and talking about sex life, so you've recently have had like a 360 in your sex life. So how long have you been married and what has happened?
Well, I met my husband when I was 20. So we've been together 47 years. We got married 42 years ago. We just celebrated our 42nd anniversary. And like many couples who've either been together that long or women that are aging, um, and were in careers and raising children and everything, the sex life sort of went onto the back burner.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as if we loved each other. We took care of each other. We held each other's hands, but something was missing. And I'm the one who realized it was missing as I started working with you and other people who helped me get my hormones straight. So because I had so many health issues and it didn't feel good, my husband, being the kind, loving man, would never, ever force himself on me. But then it became just almost like we were roommates.
Oh, yeah.
We'd fall asleep together. We would eat our meals together. We'd go out with other couples. We'd bike ride together. But we had no sex life at all. And I'd say that was probably for about 15 years. I mean, literally, it was like a huge deal. And I was like, I started feeling good again down there. Like the interest was awakened by getting the right estrogen, bioidentical, and progesterone and testosterone shot. I did that, and working with some of the tools that I bought from your pelvic health store. And all of a sudden I was as interested, and I was really nervous about approaching him. So actually at first, before approaching him, I started reading romance books, like R-rated romance books.
Yeah.
They were not just, okay, fall in love. They actually were describing things. And he was noticing I was reading these things. You didn't say anything. So eventually I said, I'm going to be courageous and I'm going to talk to him about this. But I don't want him to feel badly about himself either. I don't want him to feel like it's his fault. So I raised the issue one day, and his eyes popped open. He goes, "You're interested?" And I said, "Uh-huh, I am." And it was like we were two young kids meeting each other for the first time. We just started exploring it with each other. We would have sex like 5 times over a weekend. Now, in the past, we were having sex 5 times a year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it went to, and our kids our kids are grown up, but they couldn't get us on the phone. And it was
Where's mom and dad?
we're busy. We're doing
Good for you.
We turned the ringer off. We turned FaceTime off. We played music. We just said, we just got to know each other again and realized that, when you have all this love and all this comfort and all that, the sex can be even better, if you've taken care of yourself and you're feeling good. And he had to do some things too. He's turning 70 this year. I'm turning 68. So there are things that both of us had to do to make sure that we were feeling well enough, that our bodies were cooperating. And then the other irony, Betsy, is at this age, you are going to get other sicknesses. You are going to have other issues because we're in that time period. So, of course, I was diagnosed with a level 4 pelvic floor prolapse. So I am going to have surgery this spring, and we're not going to be able to do anything. Well, this is how the doctor put it to me. Nothing for 2 weeks, and then you can be creative for the next 4 weeks without penetration.
Yes, anything on the outside. We're going to let the inside heal.
Exactly. So, and then I told him that, and my husband's like, okay, now that you've got me all interested in, but that's our bodies too, I mean, yeah. I had 3 children. I had 6 pregnancies. 2 were miscarriages. One was with somebody else I didn't want to be pregnant with before I met him. And so, I played a lot of heavy sports. So I've got some issues going on down there that have to be constantly worked on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, 50% of women will have a prolapse at some point in their lives. And so for people who don't know what a prolapse is, it's a type of hernia. Basically, the ligaments that support the vagina, the bladder, the rectum, the uterus, those ligaments get damaged from pregnancy, from childbirth, from activities, from constipation, from vomiting, from heavy coughing.
Oh, I have constipation too. So that was another.
Yeah. So like once those ligaments get damaged, like we can do exercises and Kegels, but that's not going to fix the ligaments. So, in some people, they get to the point where surgery is an option. And it doesn't necessarily mean everybody needs surgery, but it's always an option of a whole range of things. But it's basically where things are drooping. It's like, I always say it's like drooping or dropping. It's like, my vagina fell down and it can't get up. So, yeah.
Exactly it. And and for a while, I guess, I think there's 4 levels from what I understand. And I was at a 2 for a while. So I was doing the physical therapy. I was doing all those things. But the doctor showed me, we did an ultrasound. He said, Andrea, it's at the bottom now. There's nothing you can do to raise it up without a little help.
But here's the good thing, because you've been sexually active, I always tell people like sexual activity is almost like your pelvic physical therapy. So going into surgery, you're going to recover better than if you hadn't been sexually active. So like you're on the right track, plus you're doing the hormones, which are going to help you heal better. So everything's going to be great. It's just going to be like a tiny little blip in time that you have to recover, and then you can go back to everything. So, bringing that up, I see so many couples that come in and, once the sex drive is kind of dropped off or, like life just happens. And I've heard the roommate, actually, in fact, I've personally heard the roommate comment because my husband and I went through that phase for about good 10 years of our marriage. Like probably during my 40s, he was like, I feel like we're just roommates. And, there's so many divorces that happen because of that, or people like going elsewhere seeking that intimacy, or people just give up. They just think, oh, this is normal aging and I had a great time when I was younger, but that part of my life is over now. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, I love that you bring that up because the fact is this has improved every other part of our relationship. Yeah. Just by getting reinterested in the sexual intimacy. I mean, it's just now he's willing to do dance lessons with me. He never says no to anything I ask him anymore. Nothing. It doesn't matter what I ask. He says yes. So if people want to just improve their happiness in general, getting close that way. And the fact is, if you're still together after all those years, there's so much beautiful history. And it's also opened up the doors for us to really talk honestly about some of our bad periods in our marriage and some of the stresses we've gone through. And that's why we decided to write a book. So we're writing a book from his perspective and my perspective, going through all the stages and on how to stick together and become soulmates. And soulmates are not found, but are forged is our theme. And, this is kind of like the pinnacle of forging our relationship together, that we are life mates, soulmates, and hopefully, in an afterlife we'll be kites flying together in the sky or whatever.
That is so beautiful. What other things have you found as like a benefit of this? Like, so you're saying like you're having better communication, better like day-to-day activities. So,
the thing that's really happened and the thing that I'm doing now, and maybe it's from my yoga training and maybe it's just from being older, but I am tuned in now when we're having sex. My focus is on him. And I would say even in times that I was younger, that, we had much more of a quote unquote sex drive, I don't think the focus was there. And now the intention is there, which means now I'm also noticing things like when he comes home from a hard day of work, I can be more present to him and more intentional. And and that's just, I mean, that's just beautiful to be able to be really there for each other, not just on paper, not just in front of other people, but I the first thing I think about in the morning is what does he need? And he does the same thing for me. If he has to run out and get me gas, he's running off to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, but he'll still go get me gas so that I am not without gas that day. So it just increased our consideration and sensitivity toward each other, our compassion. And in a world that is so lacking in compassion, building that muscle, carries over to literally everything we do. It makes us less judgmental toward other people and just hopeful about the world.
Some people think that the longer you're together, the easier it gets, but in some ways it's a little harder because there's more communication that's needed. Additionally, my question to you is, how do you combat the routine and boredom that can sometimes happen in sex? Because sometimes sex may be great, but it's not as exciting because you're doing the same thing over and over again, and the brain likes new things. So how have you two been able to combat that aspect of it?
Well, we've bought outfits for me, and we've been in different rooms in our house, and we, talk dirty to each other in like a public setting really quietly. We just kind of whisper things to each other. A lot of these ideas come from these books. And Mark keeps saying, keep reading them. You're coming up with great ideas. So, yeah, it's funny. I enjoy the books better than I do like a TV show or a movie. I mean, that I don't really want to see it. I like reading about it. And actually, I read out loud to him a lot. So he'll say, well, read that section of the book out loud to me. So I'll sit on his lap and read sections of the book to him.
I love that. That is amazing. And that's the thing that, sorry, I'm going to have to edit this part because my battery just came unplugged. And I'm like, I don't want this thing to shut off in the middle. So I'm going to have to tell my editor, like, oh, Jenith. Sorry,
that happens.
I was like, wait, why is it saying low battery? I don't want it shutting off because it came unplugged. All right, now we're good. We're good. Because that was all good. That was such a good part. All right, Jenith, we're back now. All right. So, yeah, so, and this is the thing that I always tell people, because sometimes I hear, especially from women, they'll be like, it's not fair. Men have the little blue pill. And I'm like, guys, the blue pill is not a horny pill. It's a blood flow pill. Your brain is your most important sex organ, so you got to figure out what stimulates your brain. And what stimulates one person's brain doesn't always do the other. So I love the fact that you're incorporating so many things, like the reading, the outfits. Some people will do toys. Some people, the new places. It's like figuring, and I think that's probably some of the fun is with the reconnection with the partner is figuring out like, ooh, what else can we try? And like what works and what doesn't work. And you're like, oh, maybe we need to practice that one a little bit more. So
I was very inhibited, I think, as a younger woman. I think, so I wouldn't have even considered any of that stuff. So I'm so much more confident. And he and I talk about that, you're so much more confident in your sexuality and body. It's, that in itself is a turn on to him, that I become this, older, sexy woman. And he's proud to have me on his arm and likes to show me off because I take really good care of myself too and put myself together when we're out. And, so there's all of that too.
And that's great too, because I've seen other women who get in their head too, and they're like, it's one of those things where they're like, oh, I don't want to have sex because I don't like the way I feel in my body, or I don't look like the way I used to when I was 20. So they put off the sex, where I think if they had this sex, then they would start feeling better about their bodies. It's like one of these catch-22, you just flip it around.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Betsy, you have just hit on such an important point because number one, my body has changed. Like I never had a waist like this. I swear it is the best exercise and I used to play 3 to 4 hours of tennis a day. There's nothing that carves your body like having vigorous sex. That's one thing. But the second thing is he's telling me all the time how beautiful I am, how gorgeous I am. And, and really, if I looked at myself objectively, I've got wrinkles, I've got all this stuff. He doesn't see that. He doesn't see any of that because, the hormones are making him feel good. And I'm just, we're pleasing each other. So we're not noticing each other's flaws. We're noticing, what this intimacy is doing for what we think of each other. And again, back to the brain, that whole thing is love and all that. And it's all coming through the brain. And you can look at somebody and think, oh my God, what a gorgeous person they are, because you're also having intimate sex with them that feels so good.
It's funny too. It's like even like not necessarily from a sexual standpoint, but like sometimes I've run into people that I knew like in high school and college. And of course it's like now, I don't know how many years later, but like I look at them and I still see the person that I knew when they were younger, but I know they're different, but I can still see it. So I think even when you're with a partner and you're still seeing that person, like the person that you originally kind of, was attracted to or fell in love with or...
That's so true. That's so true. But I'm convinced I'm more in love with him today than I ever was, just because I'm allowing myself to embrace all aspects of love. And, and I had kind of sectionalized, okay, sex might be maybe not part of our love for each other. But now that it is, it just makes it so much more complete. So it's been wonderful. We're having a blast, and I love that we're working on this book together. Whether we'll ever get it done is another thing, and whether
because you're too busy having sex to write the book.
And I'm not sure I want my children to read it. So that's the other aspect. You still have that side of you. I have 3 sons. They're adults. The third one's getting married. So, we must have done something right also when they were young. They seem like they're really happy, healthy adults who picked out great mates for themselves. But it's nice to also be a model for them of what love can look like in later years as well. Sex and love. And I think in fact, my daughter-in-law said to me, we were on a vacation with her. She's Brazilian. She said, you and your husband, you and Mark are so different together versus my parents. Like, you guys have so much fun together. Oh, and that's the other thing, humor. We get to laugh. Like when you're having, when you're young and you're getting intimate, you don't necessarily have things to laugh about in the bed. But, like spilling like the coconut oil that we were using to try to lubricate, all over the sheets and, trying out things and just laughing our heads off too. So, and realizing certain positions don't work because of our age, things that you read about, it's like, is that really going to work for our age?
And the thing is too, like, this is just also a form of play. And I think we need to approach it like play, because it's less serious and it's fun. And if you play, you could try different things. And,
exactly. I love that. I love that because that is what it is for us, playing. We are playing.
Yeah.
And we were tennis partners on the tennis court. We were biking partners. So now we're bed partners, We're playing in bed.
And, from a health standpoint, this spills over and just so much more. You were talking about like the mental health aspect of, my question is, there was a study that said improvement in sleep. Have either one of you seen improvement in sleep?
Both of us are sleeping great, but we tend to even sleep better if we just had sex and then, he's spooning me and I'm out like that, I took a nap yesterday afternoon because yesterday morning he woke me up and I was like, okay, don't need any more exercise today. And I definitely need a nap this afternoon.
And that's the thing. This is a form of exercise. Like, I'm sorry, but like that would be a lot more fun than doing the sit-ups and push-ups that I just did this morning.
Exactly.
Like, given the
or
choice.
paying to belong to a gym with a bunch of people that are sweating. I don't want to smell their sweat. I mean, he and I, that's the other thing. We're very courteous toward each other. Like we do the mouthwash. We make sure we're clean, and all that. We understand all that's important too. We even got some essential oils that, are very arousing for each of us. So yeah, those things are all important. And you don't have to be, they're spontaneous, but they don't have to be spontaneous. Like that's a nice thing, like let's go, but but wait a minute, let's brush our teeth first. Let's do this first because you've been living together your whole life. You know what turns you on and turns you off, and it doesn't like take away from anything.
And that, that's actually a good point because sometimes I get from patients, they're waiting for the spontaneous desire to happen because that's what people see in the movies and they think it's supposed to be like that. Where I'm like, you know what? Life gets busy. And because life is busy, sometimes the spontaneous desire doesn't always happen because you got other things on your mind, like paying the bills or who's food shopping or cleaning the house or something else. So I always tell people to use a calendar too as a tool and maybe schedule, and maybe it's not necessarily sex, but schedule some time where it's just you two together and be like, okay. Or like sometimes I'll say to my husband in the morning, I'll be like, hey, I think you might have some time tonight. And he'll be like, yeah, let's see, So I'm already getting him to think about like, all right, maybe later tonight that, putting some time aside to see if it goes that way. And you don't ever want to force it because if you force it, that's going to create this negative loop. So if it happens, it happens. If not, it's like, there might be nights where we had Mexican food and too many beans and you're like, you know what? Tonight's not the night. It's not happening.
Exactly. And that's the nice thing about being with a partner a long time. It doesn't wreck your relationship by saying that. It just makes it more normal. Well, as you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of the things. The spontaneity can be like I might wake up in the morning and just feel like, I don't have anything. But then he just starts putting his hand up and down my leg, I'm like, oh, maybe, and then I shift a little closer to him. So that's spontaneous, and he's just feeling me out. He's not forcing anything. It could be just, and that's something we didn't do before. We jump out of bed. We don't jump out of bed anymore. Even if it's not going to lead anything, we give each other some intimate time. We both do mouthwash, and then we jump back in bed and have a couple of minutes, and maybe we don't have time or not in the mood, but a couple of minutes of just being together. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, if I'm interested sometimes, and I want to let him know, I'll go to bed without underwear on. I'll just not put my underwear on. Now, obviously, I can't do that on the nights that, I use an estrogen cream. And so that would make a mess. So I make sure on the nights that I'm doing my estrogen cream, I make sure I have something on. But I just start rubbing up against him. And he's, just dressed for bed. But all of a sudden he's like realizing, okay, I think she's interested.
I love this. And I'm so happy to see you guys with this new kindled sex life and the fact that you're writing a book. I think you're going to get that book done and I think it's going to do great. I can't wait to be able to read it. And we'll definitely get you back on here when the book is ready so we can help you promote that. But as we're wrapping up, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is really important for people to know?
Well, I just think, again, the sex journey and all this is just about empowering our health so that we can age vibrantly. I just think there's so many of us, and that's, yours is called, 40 plus, right?
Yeah, 40s forward.
40 forward. Like, people don't realize you have so much life to live, and it can be such a better life because you don't have as many responsibilities when the children get out of the house. That's the time where if you have somehow maintained your health and maintained some sort of a relationship, you can continue to improve and everything improves. We're just smarter as we're older. We are much smarter. And that wisdom can really play into our sexual life, our intimacy, our health, what we choose to do, who we choose to, spend time with. We're more discerning. And because we're more discerning, we can make better decisions.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your journey. I'm so excited about it. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, I do have a website, and my website is called Heavenlane Creations. And it's called that because I started off making jewelry, and I just didn't want to change my name. So now it's Heavenlane Healing and Creative Arts. But the website is Heavenlane Creations. I do teach 2 online somatic yoga classes every Tuesday and Thursday morning on Zoom, and people can subscribe to my newsletter and find out about that. Otherwise, I'm pretty low key these days because I'm working on the book and things like that. So that's really my public offerings. I mean, I work with people privately if they find me, particularly for chronic pain and yoga, if I can help them with that as well. But otherwise, I just kind of doing my thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today.
Thank you, Betsy. And
all right.
Communicating with you. Okay.
Everybody, make sure that you come back and subscribe, follow, and once again, come back for more because there's always something going on 40s Forward. There we go. All right. That was
Life gets better after 40, clearer vision, brighter glow. I'm not fading, I'm ascending. This is the best I've ever known. Stronger, bolder, unapologetic. I'm just getting started, don't you see? 40s forward, this is my time. The future's finally looking like me. We got wisdom, we got fire, we got nothing left to prove. This is power, this is freedom, this is living fully you. Life gets better after 40, this is where I rise and shine.